Welcome to Kangaroos the Podcast. Rachel, happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday, or whatever day you're listening, but this is coming out on Wednesday.
I'm pretty confident that as soon as the episode drops, everybody listens to it immediately. That's what I tell myself.
I love your confidence, always.
Rachel, we have a sponsor. It is Posh Franklin. They are in the historic downtown Franklin, and they bring together a unique collection of the best brands, the latest fashions, and signature finds to help you define and express your unique style. You can find them on Instagram. Posh Franklin is their handle, all one word. And if you mention Kangaroos when you go in, you get 15% off. Pretty great.
I mean, who doesn't love a discount?
I love a discount.
Especially when we're shopping for good clothing.
Great
right?
clothing.
Great clothing, jewelry, accessories, all the things that us girls care about.
Well, and as you're walking around downtown Franklin, what a great little spot.
Yeah, there's lots of fun little shops right around Posh too.
That's right.
Like a home store,
restaurants.
It's a good place.
Yeah.
Anyway, yep.
Posh Franklin.
Posh Franklin.
What is our question of the day?
Our question of the day is, other than yours truly, what's your favorite podcast?
Oh, man. Okay. So obviously, Kangaroos is at the top of that list. I like leadership type of podcasts. I also listen to a lot of true crime podcasts. So obviously, back in the day, Serial was the number one. The one that I have found myself leaning into lately is Build a Winning Team with Tim Scher. He interviews a lot of CEOs and CMOs and dives into what makes their company so great, and it's their team. So listen to Tim's podcast. It's great as well.
I'm going to go with true crime. I think that if I wasn't in this field and didn't have children, like my role in life would be a police officer. Like I love suspense thriller books. So it's just like that. It's like escape, maybe kind of dark, but I like true crime podcasts too. I don't know that I have a current favorite, but I think I've listened to basically all of them.
Podcasts are fun.
So there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. What is our challenge of the week?
The challenge of the week is to add a question of the day to your stories utilizing the poll feature. So when you do that, you can pre-select different answers, like give people a multiple choice option, and then they can vote. So Kangaroos, for example, had one recently about favorite classic ice cream flavors. So maybe that could be your question of the day. Whatever it is, favorite cookie, favorite podcast, you could list all those things, but utilize that feature. It improves engagement.
Yeah.
And it's fun.
And it's fun.
Check.
Today, we are talking about one of my favorite topics, and it's going to be pretty wide today. It's a pretty broad view, maybe that 30,000 foot view, just on what makes really good leadership. And how could you also then be a really good leader? So how are you going to be able to provide that for the people you work with or your family or your friends? I could talk about leadership for hours. So buckle up.
Yes, he could. But so could I. So it's fine.
This episode is 17 hours long.
Yeah. It's going to be it's going to be a series. We're just kidding. It's not. Okay. Let's get started.
Let's get going. So number one, you have probably experienced good leadership somewhere in your career, and you've probably also experienced bad leadership somewhere. The first step is I just want you to be observant of that leadership. What made it good? What made it bad? Were they a dictator and whatever they said had to be implemented, or were they a pushover and they weren't making any decisions at all? So like what is it about your past leaders or maybe even current leaders that you see as good or as bad?
Yeah. I think something to keep in mind, I'm going to caveat this, is to think about how well you know that leader. So in fairness, leaders have to do really hard things a lot of times.
That's right.
And depending on where you sit within an organization, how close you are to that leader, things might feel unfair or harsh or mean. But just remembering that you don't always have all of the information that they have. Now, I would say if you're a good leader, then transparency with the people you lead will help circumvent some of the improper perceptions that might be created. So a good leader communicates well and does that intentionally with the amount of information that's appropriate for everyone to have. But I think that by and large, there's information that everyone should be able to have. We're all adults. And sometimes when a team knows that, they're motivated even further to correct a problem or to course shift with you or whatever that looks like. But there's my caveat, is just give a little grace. But some leaders are jerks. I'll say that. And there's no reason other than they're just not kind people. Mm-hmm. Anyway, okay, number 2.
There's a business saying that no one is operating with all the information. And so you make decisions based on the information that you have at the time. And so maybe they didn't make a good decision, but how did they react in that good decision? Okay, number 2. So you've observed people, good, bad, and ugly. And now I want you to be intentional about implementing those good qualities into your life and being intentional about excluding the bad qualities out of your life. So, for instance, if you saw a leader that listens really well, how can you become a more intentional listener? What does that even look like? How do we do this? Can you work on remembering people's names better? Or can you remember little minute details of their lives? Maybe you take notes. Maybe you write down their kids' names. And then even more importantly, you come back later in a different meeting and you say, hey, how is so-and-so? Instead of, hey, how are your kids? You're showing your people that you have remembered about how they live. So be intentional, turn up the good things, turn down the bad things.
I have another caveat.
You love caveats.
I do. I think this is maybe a good time to talk about how some leaders come in demanding respect, and no one loves that, right? No one loves a leader that doesn't know anything about anything. They're new. Not to say that they're not really smart people. So whatever, but organizations each have their own personality and lifeline, and no one knows that unless you're in it for a while, right? So even if you're on paper super qualified and great, and you come in somewhere and you're inheriting a team, or you're going to have to lead through change or whatever that is, and you want to be respected, you have to give people something to respect. So, I think this is a common argument in lots of marriages is people want to be respected. And you're like, well, how have you been acting? Have you been acting like you deserve respect, or have you been demanding respect? Those are two different things. It's not hard to respect someone that gives you a reason to, right? So as a leader, you have to remember, I am the servant here. And so if I want to be trusted and empowered to make big decisions on behalf of, this large or small organization, and I want to be respected by all of my people, what does that mean? And therefore, who do I need to be? And that's where this intentionality, I think, comes into play. Okay, caveat done. Check.
That's great. That's a great caveat. Number 3, do you have the proper structure for your team? Do you have the right team organization? So in the past, we've talked a lot about a very introspective view of who you are. You need to know your strengths and your weaknesses so that then you can hire to round out your own characteristics. So if I know that I am strong in one area, am I looking for a carbon copy of me? Because man, no one in this world needs another me. Also, is carbon copy a term that makes me sound old? Do people Xerox things?
Copy. Yeah. What a carbon copy is for our younger people is there used to be 2 sheets of paper with this black sheet of paper in the middle. And that's how you copy things. You would like write, and then it would make a copy on the thing below the black sheet, which was the carbon. Anyway, Andrew is older than some of us here. Mm-hmm. So
older and wiser, you, right?
Well, that's questionable. But anyway, yes, carbon copies. Okay, so, we're not going to go down that rabbit trail. Right.
So think of
I do have something.
Oh, go ahead. No, you go first.
Go ahead. Nope. I have another caveat.
No, of course.
For our realtors who are listening, I think when we say team, your mind might automatically be like, well, I don't have one. Like, I don't employ a team, or I don't work with 2 other agents on a specific team that we all do business together. But think more broadly. So it could be the team of people that you typically close with, your lenders that you're working with, people who, your broker who's overseeing your transactions, and how you all work together, finding systems that work for you and processes and strategy on how to make it a super efficient and great team. Those are your team members. Whether or not you're directly their boss, you're still managing the process.
Yeah, so that's good.
Think about it that way instead of like maybe in the terms that Andrew and I typically think about, just because we're not realtors, but we're overseeing people that help you.
That's really good. That's a great caveat. So think of like a football team. If everybody was a quarterback, then you have a team full of quarterbacks, but you also need people to play defense, or you also need wide receivers, or you also need all of the other specialty positions on a football team. So you all come together to win the game. So in the same way, you're going to partner up with lenders and brokers and builders and repairmen and so on, so that the ultimate goal is to close or sell or buy a house. There you go.
Yeah.
It's great.
Number 4 is to empower those team members. So if you are sensible, and I think all of you probably are, you are probably able to choose within some certain, structure or limitation, certain people that you like to work with. So you have maybe just started, or you've been in this for a while, and you have identified those people that you work well together. You trust them because they've done a really good job. If that is the case, then you need to empower those people to do their jobs. Now, part of being a good realtor is, I don't want to say micromanaging, because no one likes that, but your job for your client is to make sure that all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed, so that when you get to closing, no one is going to be leaving in a sobbing heap because now they have to wait 3 weeks because someone somewhere has not dotted an I or crossed a T. And we all know that there's a lot of moving pieces. And the caveat is those things do happen no matter how well you manage it. But you would like to keep those occurrences to a minimum. That's why Andrew and I harp on building that good team, because when you build a good team of those people that you trust, that you empower to do their jobs, it's less work on you. You're not having to go back and double check everything, which is why we're like, build a good team. It's good for everyone else to empower people. Everyone does a better job when they feel empowered. But also make your life easier. Like, make it easier on yourself. Work harder. Work smarter, not harder. That's the phrase I'm looking for.
Yeah, and a lot of empowering your people might be clearing the obstacles in their path. So how can you allow them to be more creative or to work more in their excellence? Well, if X, Y, and Z just got out of the way, well, that's my new job. Then I'm going to try to figure out how to get X, Y, and Z out of their way. So empower your team members to be really, really good. I just heard a new phrase. It's called the 140 rule. So if I hire somebody that can do my job at 70%, then I should, in fact, probably hire 2 of those people that are both doing 70%, and then you get 140% of what you are doing. And so then you get even more output off of those people. I thought it was an interesting concept, but I don't know if I can hire 2 people at once. But, it's a good business strategy.
Yeah.
Last one, number 5, care for your team individually. This one is the same the other side of the be intentional coin, but how can I care for my team very, very individually and very, very intentionally? We are far more than our work. We are far more than a paycheck. We are far more than what you offer to me or the team. We're humans. We have emotions. We care about different things. And so like, I just need you to care for your team. Here at Kangaroost, we have a saying that is family first. We absolutely love what we do and what we get to share with people like you in the real estate world. But if it comes at the neglect of either of our families, that's not a good business to be in. So we care deeply for the people that we get to work with. It's a mindset, and it's one that we will not back down from.
Yeah.
It makes a world of difference.
I have another, I don't have a caveat. I have something to add. I think being empathetic is hugely important. As you said, we're all people and we do have emotions and we all process emotions differently. So one of the things that someone told me, like right when I started having kids, is like, they're like, this won't matter as much when they're infants, but when they start growing and you see their own will, this will come into play. And basically it's when you get angry as a parent. So this would apply, like if you are angry as a leader, and sometimes those are warranted moments of anger or being annoyed, always ask yourself if you're angry because what this other person or this child is doing is wrong, or if you're angry because it inconveniences you. And that has been hugely helpful as a parent. Not that I always get it right by any stretch, but I really do try to ask, like, am I angry because I'm annoyed with my kids doing X, Y, and Z, or are they actually doing something that they shouldn't be doing? And is that why I'm angry? And forcing yourself to slow down long enough to ask that question helps you be empathetic. One, because even if you are angry, your response says so much more about who you are to that person, and just about like who you want to be. So are you someone that not that we all get it right, and I am Italian and have anger is just part of my bloodstream. So it's something that I have to learn to keep in check. But doing that, or annoyance, or just like being, cold, like, why do you feel that that's the proper response? Empathy usually is always better. And then whatever person that caused that emotion in you sees you have that response and probably is going to work harder, have more respect for you, trust you more, and thereby be a better team member / employee or child. So it's sort of like a little self-serving, but also most of what we're doing, and I guess I can't speak for everyone listening because I don't know what you do, but most of us are really not managing actual crises. Like there are legit people managing, like flying hearts across the country in coolers. Those are people that sure, I'm going to let them be more emotional than I am about an inconvenience or a delay. Like that is way more important than most everything that we're all doing.
That's right. A little perspective.
Matters.
Jinx.
Yes. Oh.
Well, that's our episode on how to lead well, how to be a good leader. High level view, and we will drill down into more of these details in the future. But I think it's a really good baseline foundation for us. Rachel, what is our local find of the week?
Welcome to the cinnamon roll discussion, our friends who are listening. Yesterday, as it happens, I was at a coffee shop doing work, and I just had coffee at the coffee shop on my laptop in this little room by myself. And all of a sudden, the server brings me a cinnamon roll. I didn't order a cinnamon roll. They were like, someone thought you should have this. And I was like, oh, who? And then they just smirked and walked away. And I got the cinnamon roll, and it was nice and warm. The perfect crisp exterior and nice, soft interior, and it was delicious. And this is at a place called Carpe Cafe in Smyrna, Tennessee. They support local like education of arts and students and do all sorts of classes and things. So I always like to go because I feel like my money's going farther there. But that cinnamon roll is delicious. It was really close to perfect.
Do you cut it or do you unwind it?
No, I unwind
Yeah,
it.
that's the only way to eat them. Yeah.
And yesterday I ate the middle of the cinnamon roll and left the edge.
Stop it. Stop.
This is why we're friends. If you would have been there, you could have eaten the outside and I would have happily given it to you.
My favorite cinnamon roll here in town is one that you brought me from Slim and Huskies.
Slim and Huskies does have great cinnamon rolls, but I think we're talking about the Amish feed mill.
Oh my gosh.
In Nolensville.
Yep. That's it.
And those are really, really great. Like those are maybe the best. You're right. Carpe's is good. It was very fresh, but the Amish feed mill in Nolensville, hands down, the best cinnamon roll I've ever had.
I also think that we should do a taste test. And so if you've got a spot that you're like, no, this one is the best in town, we will happily check it out. So send us your recommendations on best cinnamon roll in town.
Yeah, I, during COVID, started making them homemade because why not?
Mm-hmm.
And those were pretty good, but I haven't done it since then. It's labor intensive to make them well and good. And why do that when you could just buy them from the Amish feed mill that's already done and they're delicious?
That's right.
And that makes me really hungry. Like, it sounds delicious right now.
To head to
anyway,
yeah.
Yeah.
This is Kangaroos, the podcast. Thank you for joining us. Again, check out Posh Franklin, our sponsor in downtown historic Franklin. And we also have a discount code for you, 50% off of signing up for Kangaroos. What is the code?
First month, 50. So first month word spelled out and 50. So first month 50, like Andrew said, gets you 50% off your first month subscription.
Perfect. And y'all know how to reach out to us. We would love to have cinnamon rolls and coffee.
Yeah.
We'll pay.
Please. We'll pay. Give me an excuse to eat them, please.
All right, Rachel. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.